Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how I sew this shaped pad with a newer pattern that is about to be released. But I'm going to show you how to sew it as a heavy absorbency pad with a hidden layer of PUL. And I got this layer of PUL from Nature's Fabrics, which you can go check out. They have solid colors and printed colors. And I ended up really liking this process, even though I'm a bit dramatic in the middle of the video about how hard I think it's going to be. It wasn't bad. I think it's a very doable way of making pads for yourself that are very reliable and waterproof and really a budget-friendly option. So I hope that this video is helpful and that it will help you make pads for yourself. And thanks for watching! I decided to use some cotton velour as the topper. This cotton velour didn't turn out as I expected when I was dyeing it, so it's a good option for a test pad. I'm going to draw the outline of the sewing line onto the back of the topper so that I can sew on that line when I'm sewing all the layers together. I choose to use a rotary cutter, but you can use scissors as well. And because I don't plan to use this paper pattern again, I'm just saving paper and cutting the core out of the pattern when I'm done with the sewing line. And this is a lot easier to do if you spritz the back of the pattern with some basting spray. So that's what I ended up doing for the second core layer that I did. Okay, here's what I'm going to use as the absolute back layer of the pad, just to make it a little more grippy in the underwear. So I'm going to have a hidden layer of PUL with this as the hiding layer, with this as the topper, and here's the core. So this pad is going to be hard to sew. That's just my prediction. I think this is going to be hard. So we will see. I might regret making this video, making this pad like this, but figure this type of thing gets suggested in the group, and I just want to know if we should be doing that or not. If it's easily workable. Okay, let's go. Okay, I just want to recap here the layers that we have. Here's the core, which is going to be 2 layers of 500 GSM bamboo French terry from Nature's Fabrics. It's smooth on one side and it has very tight loops on the other side. This is not the messy version of terry. You can also get terry that's looped on both sides, and when you cut that, it sheds everywhere. It's not that kind. This is the French terry, which is nice to work with. So 2 layers of that because we're making a heavy pad. And then for the topper, it's going to be a layer of this cotton velour in a color that I didn't think turned out that great, so we're going to use it as a test pad. And then the waterproof layer is going to be hidden PUL, and the backer is going to be this flannel unicorn print. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is sew the core to the topper. But I want to sew the 2 layers together first because I decided to make them slightly staggered or stacked so that it wouldn't be so thick right at the edge of the pad. So this is the first time I'm trying this with the bamboo French terry. So I'm going to sew these together first, and then I will sew them to the topper. Okay, here we go. I lightly spritzed some basting spray on these because I feel like it's going to be really tricky just using pins since this is really stretchy fabric. I'm trying to wean myself off of using basting spray altogether, but during a tutorial, right now is not the time. Sometimes I probably should just do it the hard way because most people are doing it the hard way. and that would be more helpful to see it that way. But here we go. I'm going to have a relatively long stitch length, just above 3. Here I'm just placing the core within the sewing line to make sure that it's nice and even. You can use basting spray to stick the core to the back of the topper in this step, but I'm really trying to stop using basting spray. So I'm going to use pins, and I think pins are what most people have access to anyway, so I'm going to try it and see how it goes. Okay, overall I expected this part to be really challenging because the core and the topper are both stretchy, and in the past when I've tried to do this, it's been difficult. It didn't turn out well for me. So that's why I always used a hidden layer of muslin to stabilize my stretchy fabrics. But I went slow, although it's sped up now. I went slow while I was sewing and lifted the presser foot frequently and turned the pad, which helped. It helped quite a bit. So it wasn't that bad when I just went slowly and went carefully. Don't try to zip around that curve and like force the pad through and manipulate it with your hands, because then you're probably going to get puckering and wrinkling, and the topper could twist up and just look funky. So take your time. Here's what the topper looks like. I decided not to do the tedious pulling the threads to the back and knotting them off, and because it's a velour, it's kind of going to hide that, so it'll be fine. There we go. This is really like heavy and floppy. I think this is going to be a nice nighttime pad, especially with the PUL, assuming this doesn't turn into a disaster. We'll see. Alright, this is the tricky part. For layering these fabrics, in order to have the PUL hidden, you're going to put, okay, let's just start from here. Here's shiny side of the PUL, put that down towards the table. And then put the pretty side of the flannel up towards the ceiling. And then the pretty topper you're going to place toward the pretty side of the backer. So we're going to put right sides together. Like this. And then I will gently smooth everything out. Kind of press it a little so it'll stick naturally. I didn't use any sticking like basting spray or anything. Okay, so I think the cotton velour and the flannel naturally don't slide. The tricky part might be the flannel and the PUL. So I'm going to pin outside of the sewing line. Well, I'm going to try to. I just messed it up already. The moral of the story of all the chatting that I just did was that you should use as many pins as it takes to make you feel comfortable. So I used many. Here we go. I'm nervous, but I'm sure it'll be fine. This is a lot of layers. Well, 3 layers. The cotton velour adds a little bit of thickness. I'd wanted to use the cotton velour because I think it's a good option for heavy pads or postpartum pads. So we'll try it. Okay, I've got my pad ready to go. I'm gonna have the turning hole on the side of the flare because that's where I can get the biggest turn hole. And since the PUL is not stretchy, I want to have a big turning hole so I'm not trying to rip the hole in order to get the pad turned out. All right. Okay, I'm already experiencing why this is going to be difficult, because I'm not using a walking foot, and it's kind of like stretching the fabric out, and it's stretching the sewing line out of its original shape. So I'm going to have to go really slow and make sure that it behaves. It's not too bad, it just feels unruly to me compared to having a woven layer on the back. I mean, the worst case scenario, if it's super stretchy, is that one wing is going to be like higher than the other. So I'm going to try to avoid that. Oh, forgive my nails. They are dyed from me dyeing my hair dark pink. I just realized they look very unattractive. Oh well, when you're crafty, you don't end up with clean nails, clean sewing rooms. I probably shouldn't apologize for it constantly. We're getting a little wonky. Okay, so overall, the process of sewing the stretchy cotton velour to the non-stretchy fabrics, it wasn't that bad. I was being a little too pessimistic when I started with this. It might help to use a walking foot on your machine. I just didn't feel like tracking mine down, and I didn't love using it when I first got my machine, or this walking foot for this machine anyway. But I did previously love the walking foot on my Singer machine, so you might really like that if you have a different machine. Okay, I'm going to use my favorite pinking shears, which you can get on Amazon if you're in the US. I have no idea about availability in other countries. And these are cheap. I think they're less than $10. So, I think I have YouTube videos in the description of all my sewing videos. You can find the link to these pinking shears. So, go check those out, because they're awesome. You don't have to use pinking shears. I just like doing it, so. Okay, one reason that I designed this pattern the way that it is, it has these gentle curves. There's no corners. It should not require clipping any corners. If you're using pinking shears, all you should have to do is neatly trim the seam allowance with the pinking shears, and then you're done. With PUL, you might want to just go in one time in each of these corners. Just do a little snip to make sure there's no tension that will cause puckering. But other than that, that's it. Just pinking shears. And I did that because when you're sewing 40 pads at a time and you get to the trimming stage like this and you're like snipping into all these corners with fancy pads, like I was just not amused quickly. I was ready to be done with that. Okay, very difficult to see what I'm doing through the camera. Oops, a little close there, so you gotta be careful. For some reason, it keeps pulling my scissors really close to the sewing line. So I wouldn't say that you should cut that close. So that's what I mean by not needing to clip into that, if you're just careful. But since it's not stretchy, I would do one little snip in there. And I'll show you what I mean. Well, that got a little shorter than I would normally do, but it'll be fine. there's that. Let me grab my scissors. Just take a look in here. We don't want any puckering when we turn this out. So I'm just gonna do one tiny snip, not too close to the sewing line. It may not even be necessary, but because I'm hardly even cutting. This one could use it though. So I've got this all trimmed, and now it's time to turn it out and hope that this sewing or the hole is going to be big enough. Okay, the final step is putting on the snaps. And this pattern is designed to be able to accommodate 2 snap settings. So it's not quite going to be like a 2.5 snap setting and then a 3-inch snap setting. I say it's more like 2 options between 2.5 and 3. So it's kind of just a middle ground. And also it's going to depend on how your pad comes out. Depending on how thick your core is and what materials you used, the exact measurement is going to differ. So what I would suggest is, if you want a specific snapped width, fold the pads over and then measure this distance and then set the snap depending on how wide you want it to be. I'm just going to put 2 snap settings on as far as I can put it to the edge of the wing, and then just a little bit in. So that's where I'm going to put my snaps for now. Okay, I'm just poking the holes for my snaps. I like to do 1 hole on each wing, and then I will set one of the snaps on the wing that's going to have 2 snap settings, just so I have the right spacing. And then change any parts if you need to. I have cracked some snaps before because I forgot to change the part. So again, this was a test sew for me, and I was really surprised when I measured the snapped width of the widest possible setting that it does measure 3 inches wide. So that could be a plus for somebody who's looking for an actual 3-inch wide snapped width. And then I wanted to check the snapped width on the tighter setting, and I think it could even be set tighter without noticeable bunching, because there's no bunching on that setting right now. And it looks like it is almost 2.5. So yeah, I think the pattern could be 2.5 to 3, anywhere in that range. So you'll just have to set the snap settings where you want it to be. I hope that was helpful to watch that process. So here's the final pad, and I think it turned out much better than I expected it to. I expected it to be slightly difficult because of the hidden PUL layer and because I was using a stretchy topper with a stretchy core without any stabilizing layer in that portion of the pad. But I think it turned out pretty good. I would make a pad like this again. It's a heavy absorbency with a waterproof layer in it. So this is the kind of pad I would wear if I needed to be working outside the home or going to school outside the home. So yeah, I would probably use this pad if I needed it to like a trip out, because it should be a little more reliable with that layer of PUL in there. So yeah, I think this is a good option for those who need PUL and a heavy absorbency pad. If I could do it over again, I would have used a core stitch line not so close to the edge. I would have figured out a way to stitch further in because it just looks a little uneven next to the top stitching. But it just takes practice. Whatever kind of pad you're making with your sequence of steps, by the 5th or 6th pad that you make, it's probably going to look really nice. So I usually don't use these materials, and yeah, there's always a bit of a learning curve when you use a new process or new material. But I hope that this was helpful and that you can make some pretty comfortable, functional pads for yourself. And thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.